Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine.
Ta-da!
Go.
I will not.
I said go!
This is not Brie. And this is not Dungeons and Dopamine.
This is not episode 34.
And my microphone is not going to fall off and hit me in the face.
Oh, Stella!
And change topics! No, this is actually Dungeons and Dopamine. I am Brie.
I'm Jess. I put a chip in my mouth thinking we were going to start this whole thing fresh.
No, we're going from here.
We've committed and we're here.
We are cutting down your editing, Jessica. Means we have to keep it all.
Everything. Episode 34, yay.
Yay.
Did I say I'm Jess? I'm pretty sure everyone knows that by now.
I would hope so. But if you don't, that's Jessica.
I'm You pointed to me. I am the one who always has food in their mouth. What is happening? We've never podcasted before.
It was actually other people doing our podcast prior to this. And we have decided to take over after 33 episodes. Because that would make sense.
Yeah.
And because there are totally people as weird as us that could have pretended to be us for 33 weeks.
I did think, like, during the plague that you had, not like the plague, not the plague.
I've been considering the plague lately.
Concerning plagues. Your plague specifically.
Right.
I was like, what would I do if she got really sick and couldn't do the podcast anymore? And I'm like, no, nothing. No one else can riff with me like you.
It can't be recreated. Like, I only think I'm funny when I'm around you. But I definitely think I'm funny when I'm around you.
I think I'm funny all the time, which is probably wrong.
No. Only half the time. You're funny half the time.
Christina thinks I'm funny. Don't change, Christina.
Ever. In different areas.
Speaking to our listeners, though, if you listen to us on Spotify, you should follow us.
Yeah.
Because that helps us. And
makes us look cool.
Yeah.
Makes me really happy when Ryan sends us our updated statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a new listener from Canada, thank you. I'm
Welcome.
Assuming you're Kevin Hearn because that's just the only possibility in my world.
Welcome and maple syrup.
That's all we know about Canadia. Kevin Hearn and maple syrup.
If we were actually cool, we'd say something neat in French.
But we're not.
all I know is from the episode of Dexter's Laboratory where something about cheese. Ryan's gonna hear this and maybe he can enter the clip from Dexter.
Please, Ryan.
This is on you now.
This episode will not be complete without at least something from Dexter.
It's like du lait roux fromage or something like that.
Omelette de fromage. Omelette de fromage.
So, okay, here's my vague resolution for the rest of this episode. Not sucking.
Feels very specific to me. We haven't gone through those steps yet.
So,
okay.
No popsicles.
The theme is quit it.
No straws.
Right.
No being horrible at podcasting.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
It's really multifaceted.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we still fail at this at the end, as long as we haven't drank through any straws, there'll still be a win.
You have really
I've embraced
jumped
this.
headfirst into this theme resolution, and you're doing great at it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to finish up my cliffhanger talking about resolutions and how to try to make resolutions stick when you have ADHD. Last week I talked a lot about, instead of choosing a specific goal or getting bogged down in the details of a goal or goals, to maybe choose an overarching theme or an idea for the year. But I also had to admit that there are people and things that sometimes we just have to do, and we need to be able to meet to set and meet goals, even though we have ADHD and it's hard. Because as much as I want to say I don't have to meet any goals for the rest of my life, I do. I have jobs, I have friends, I have family, I have like bills to pay. So I do have to like function in life.
I do not accept this.
Just
throwing that out there.
This is not my reality. Like I said, this is if you have a very specific goal you want to achieve. This is for if you have like a specific number that you're looking for. You know, maybe you want to start running marathons, or you want to lose weight, or you want to read 52 books in the next year. This is more for that. Still all the same kind of recommendations and tips from the first one. You know, you still want to set a small, realistic, attainable, flexible goal. You want to recognize your weaknesses, find your workarounds, work with your strengths, reward your successes, don't focus on your failures. But with this, you're going to want to get much more specific, and you're going to have to think much more in depth about what you succeeding looks like to you. These are probably going to be real actual number goals. So you're probably, if it's a weight loss goal, you're going to set a number that you're reaching to. You're going to buy a scale and you're going to check that number. If it's, you know, saving a certain amount of money or reading a certain amount of books, whatever it is, you want a number.
That's kind of an interesting thought too, because if I stop and think about it, I probably wouldn't be that proud of myself for losing 5 pounds, because that's literally like maybe going to the bathroom or drinking or not drinking a lot of water or something that week. Whereas when you start getting up into the double digits, if I say lose, 15 or 20, then I'm really excited about that. That's a pretty big number, regardless of the fact that it may be over a year. That's still 20. That's a big number.
Yeah. And
it's an interesting thought.
And like you said, it's something you actually have to do versus, okay, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. Well, like you said, I could do that. I do that between Monday and Friday, because on Monday I'm always up from the weekend and, probably not taking care of myself as well, not drinking enough water. And by Friday, I've been back on track for 5 days because I've been back on my schedule and going to work every day and not eating 6 candy bars. I don't know. And so I've lost that weight by the end of the week. And it's not because I lost 5 pounds because I was dedicated. It's because my body was like, oh, this is how we're supposed to be.
Bodies do weird stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to recommend you write this stuff down. With ADHD, it's so easy to forget what we're focused on. I might have a fleeting thought that I should work on this thing, but unless I sit down and write it out and really plan the steps, it's not going to stick with me. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not focused on it. It's not really important to me. And if you want to set a goal, if you're going to do this, then dive in. Make this your hyper focus. Get obsessed with this. Because honestly, if you don't, you have ADHD and it's going to be gone. And then you're going to be disappointed with yourself. Your rejection sensitivity is going to kick in and you're going to feel like a failure. And it's just a vicious cycle. So you're going to want to write your plans. You're going to want to come up with backup plans. And then you're going to want to come up with contingency plans on your weaknesses and how you're going to deal with those things when they come up. You want to research a billion apps or tools or suggestions on what you can do to help your weaknesses or focus on your goal. If you like being rewarded every day, maybe you want an app that you can track your progress and you get a gold star for completing your step that day. If you know that you need help with a routine, maybe you want to download an app that helps you get through a routine in the morning. Really hyper focus on this, really dive into this and spend some really real time on it. It's not going to be something you spend 3 minutes thinking of and on January 1st you're like, okay, here we go, because you won't. I just admit it, you won't.
You won't go.
And then I would use this method, and I have heard of this method before. It's called the SMART method. You're going to want to set a SMART goal, and the SMART method is that it is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And this is why it usually works with somebody for ADHD. You are going to get very, very specific about your goal. This isn't, I'm going to write a book this year. This isn't, I'm going to get healthier this year. This is, I am going to write 500 words every single day. I am going to lose 5 pounds a month. I am going to walk a mile a day. Set a number, get specific. This is a one and done thing. This isn't, I'm going to cultivate relationships and networking. Here is my focus. This is what I'm focused on. You also want it to be measurable, kind of what we talked about in the beginning. If it's measurable, you know when you're winning. You know when you're succeeding. You can see the numbers. You can see the data. If it's going your way, this is very, very invigorating. If it's not going your way and you frame it right in your brain, that can also be invigorating because you can do it. You just have to change something. Or it can be your chance to realize something isn't working and what do you need to change, what do you need to be flexible with to make it work. So I can't lose 5 pounds a week. It's not healthy. It's just not how it's going to go. So then my goal changes to 5 pounds a month, which is very achievable and would get you to 60 pounds in a year, which is really a huge number.
I also, for myself, I don't think this is an ADHD trait. This is just a personality flaw. But if I have a goal, like you said, and I see that I'm not reaching it, sometimes I will just get so frustrated that I will achieve it out of spite.
Yes.
I will spite achieve things.
And I love that. And that's true for me too. If I make something into a competition, especially if it's a competition with like my husband, then I will succeed. There's just no way around it. Whatever you have to do to really jump in and make it attainable, whether it's tricking yourself into, okay, well, if I don't get this done, then my husband wins. If that's what it takes, if you need just a little bit of anger to push yourself.
If you need to spite finish something, do it.
Yeah, I mean, call me. It's the same way people will, like, if you want to clean your house, have me call you and say, hey, I'm on my way over, and then you'll have 20 minutes to, like, super clean your house, and it'll get done. It's incredible.
We'll be there in an hour, and then an hour and a half, you're like, where are you? Oh, I'm not coming. You asked me to do this at the beginning of the year, and I thought it was weird, but I figured I'd do it.
But I still do it every once in a while. So the A is for attainable. You want to make sure you're choosing goals that are attainable, because if you choose something that's way outside your comfort level or something that's not even physically possible, you are obviously going to fail, which is going to make you feel worse. Like I said, last year I told people I was going to write a book, I was going to be published. That was an unattainable goal. I mean, probably magically you could publish a book in a year, but even if you were going to self-publish on Amazon, I literally was starting from scratch. I didn't even have an idea for a book.
And that seems what kind of crap book are you going to be putting out like that? Like,
right.
You're not going to be proud of yourself.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to be thought out. It's not going to be researched. There's no illustrations. It would be self-published on Amazon. Like, it would have been awful.
Worse than this podcast.
Right? Or you're not going to, on January 1st, decide that you're going to run a marathon by June if you've never run before. You have to be smart and attainable with your goals. It only hurts you if you pick things that are just impossible. You also want to pick relevant goals so that you stay excited, so that you have the time and the energy to devote for your goals. You can't succeed at a goal to become a horse trainer if you don't have a horse and you live in the city and you don't have any access to horses.
How dare you?
Not only that, but you're not going to stay excited about your goals, and you're not going to have the time or energy to devote to them if they're not relevant to your life. If I don't like running and I don't want to be a runner and for some reason choose to tell someone I'm going to run a marathon, but I also work 2 jobs and have a family and don't have any free time, now I don't have any time to devote to training. I don't have any want to devote to training. So again, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're agreeing to something you don't even necessarily want. And then you're going to still feel awful about it later when you have to back out of running a marathon for money that you never wanted to do in the first place. And then make it time bound. And in these instances, you're probably not going to want to set a goal that's like by the end of the year. You're probably going to be looking more at like 10 days from now, I will have done this. Or every week, I will do this. Or by the end of this month, I will have this done. If you set these long time goals and you have ADHD, you're either going to procrastinate until the very last minute. So now you're signed up for a marathon that you didn't start training for until 3 days before, which isn't something I've done, I swear.
I was thinking of exactly that.
Or you're just going to forget about it and you're not going to do it. And you're going to get to, December 17th and be like, wasn't I supposed to do something this year? Like publish a book or something? So set a attainable time limit that is still relevant enough to keep you excited and keep you on track. Then, like I said before, you have to actually write these plans, make these backup plans, contingency plans on how you're going to get there. You're going to hyper-focus on all this. You're going to bring in some resources. You're going to call your friend up and say, hey, I know you've been wanting to get healthier too. Let's set a goal to walk together once a week. And then you have somebody that is on your side that has the same goals as you, that will help you succeed, that you feel like you can't let them down, because of course we'll let ourselves down, but we'll never let our friend down. If that doesn't work, you even body doubling. So if you guys can't walk together every week, if you don't have anybody to, meet up with and walk with because you're new to an area, you can call a friend still. So even if they live across the country, some people do this for cleaning.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you remember the days when we actually used to speak on the phone, but nobody sits on the phone. If you are on the phone, you're probably walking around your house, picking stuff up, puttering, putting things away, and you don't even realize you're doing it. But because you're so distracted by the conversation and what's going on the phone, you're just doing these things, and it's not even painful. It just happens.
Yeah, you're done before you realize.
Mm-hmm. There are a ton of new apps you can use. Jessica and I have talked very extensively about Finch, which I am still using.
Yep.
Finch is great because it's going to help you break things down into very small, attainable goals. It has a cute little bird that you're going to feel like you have to take care of, so you have another reason to get on this app and complete these goals. It helps you build up through the month, so you get more prizes and more extras for the more days that you log in each month. And it sounds silly. Like, I know this is a virtual bird that will not die if I forget to log onto my app, but I still log onto my app every day and make sure that I'm getting all the things and checking off the boxes. And it already has reminded me that I'm choosing small goals, attainable goals, realistic goals. I'm not setting out to run a marathon. I'm setting out to work out for 3 minutes. This has been probably the single most rewarding app I've ever used, and the one I've stuck with the longest. Other apps that can be really helpful are routine apps. So anything that can help you, get your morning together or get your evenings together, build healthy habits in. I started brushing my teeth and flossing every day because I read books while I floss my teeth. So now it's not, oh my gosh, I don't have time to floss today. It's, oh, now I can read my book for 4 minutes while I floss and brush my teeth. And I mean, let's not talk about the addiction to technology that comes with having my phone in the bathroom with me so that I can read on it while I floss. But at least I'm flossing my teeth.
I mean, seriously,
my dentist is going to be so excited, you guys.
I've started leaving a toothpick on my desk, one of those flossy picks, because I find that while I'm working, if I'm not doing something with my hands for whatever reason, I will pick that up and floss my teeth.
Yes. And it's, so I don't remember what word they use for this, but it's, a professional thing. It's basically just building a habit onto a habit you already have. So you're more likely to follow through with something like flossing, because if you're already in the bathroom getting ready and you get to read your book while you do it, or if you have the pack of floss sticks sitting next to you when you have free time, you're going to pick it up and floss versus pick up your phone and do nothing. This can also work with, having that excitement. So we talked earlier about like buying a new planner and the pens and everything, or buying a new app and, setting it all up and coming up with a new routine. You just want to make sure you're still sticking to the small attainable goals, the specific goal, versus sometimes I do get overwhelmed in Finch if you choose to do one of the journeys. Mm-hmm. It will add a bunch of goals for you. And sometimes I get bogged down in, I'm supposed to also like check my schedule for the day. But really what I need to be focusing on is, 3 minutes of exercise.
Right.
So don't get too excited or overdo these tools or these apps. Make sure you're still sticking to your SMART goal.
You can also join our Facebook group.
Yes, we have.
Better than doing it alone?
Yes, and it hasn't been very active through the holidays, unfortunately.
No,
but
it's so... I tried a few times to get things rolling. You're so busy during the holidays. Yeah. And once again, I promised myself I'd have calm ones that I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a good point. No one's left the group. Right. Everyone's still there. So when we pick it up, it'll pick up.
Yeah. And when people do post, it's very supportive. There is always somebody there to be like, hey, good job. I'm proud of you. And if it's not our group or us, find another group. Facebook and social media has really opened up our world to find anything. If your goal seems really obscure and none of your friends are working towards that goal, there's probably somebody on Facebook or Reddit that is. And then you also want to make sure that you have contingency plans for if you fail. So nobody wants to think about what they're going to do if they fail or when they fail. But especially with ADHD, if I fail, sometimes I'm so hurt by that or so discouraged by that, I just give up. But if I am honest with myself in the beginning that, there's going to be days I don't do this, what about it? So do I try to do something else that day? Some people will have to, maybe I have to like let my husband choose what we have for dinner if I don't make my own lunch that day. Don't make these painful failures. Don't make these things that are going to hurt you. Don't say that you have to like give someone $100 every time you mess up.
Unless it's our Patreon.
Yes. That's your new goal. If you do not complete it, you have to send us $100. We'll have you on track in no time.
Yes. And then after you do that, you have to just subscribe to one of the lower tiers.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's great.
Totally successful. Who can help you if you get off track? Who can help you get back on track? I had a friend that when I was focusing on my health and I was really struggling with it, she said she was able to give up smoking because she honestly printed off really gross black lung pictures and stuck them up all over her house, looking at this reminder of how your lungs will look if you continue smoking is a good way to not feel like you want that cigarette anymore.
That, I think, is genius. The only thing I am going to say from the perspective of someone who might do this, don't take pictures of the body you want or the body you had when you were 16 years old and that's where you want to be again, because you may send yourself spiraling on a day where you do poorly.
Yes.
So, but the lungs, I think, is amazing because...
Yes, be smart about this. Don't put up a picture of a model in a bikini if you're working on losing 50 pounds.
Yes.
You are not going to look like that because we are not 20
fake
anymore.
Yeah.
And she probably spent a lot of money and has trainers and a chef and...
airbrush.
Yeah. And it's in a magazine with airbrush. So make sure, again, you're choosing realistic goals and that the reminders or the motivators you're using are healthy motivators. Mm-hmm. Enlist the help of your family and friends, not to slap your hand every time you reach for a candy bar, but maybe just check in once a week and say, hey, how are you doing this week? Is there anything you need help with or anything you want to talk about? And I was going to talk more about like actual tips, but this went longer than I thought it would. I mean, you can get on Reddit, you can get on anything that has different apps that you can use, and You can find
You should
people
post
that are
those tips in the group.
yeah.
Even if you do it now,
Mhm.
which is a little earlier than this episode, but
Telling the future, guys.
I bet there'll be an episode, Dad.
And I do have one
Mm-mm.
final thought. Make sure whatever goals you're setting or where you're at in your life that you are healthy enough to be doing these. If you need bigger help than just setting a few goals and working towards motivation, if you need professional help, whether that's from a doctor, from a psychiatrist, sometimes we are in the stages of life where it's just not possible to do anything but survive.
Yeah.
And that is okay. And that is the time where maybe your goal is to exercise for 3 minutes a day, or to set foot outside your house,
Literally
Or-
to shower.
to make a phone call and set up a doctor's appointment. But give yourself that grace.
Absolutely.
And do not start these, do not jump into starting some New Year's resolutions if you are still struggling with being able to shower a couple times a week. Do not
pick your
hurt yourself further.
Pick your accountability partners carefully. Don't pick Aunt Mildred because she's honest and will call you a fat cow when you eat a cookie at Christmas time. No. Pick
And-
someone who's going to support you. They love you the way you are. They don't think you need to change, but they're happy to help you in any way they can.
And pick your friend that's going to actually help you. Don't pick your friend that...
Don't take me shopping with
Yeah,
you.
if I was trying to be frugal and save money, I would not call Jessica and be like, hey, I'm trying to save money today. Do
Would you like
want
to go to Home
shopping?
Goods with me?
Because it wouldn't work. So be honest with yourself there. Do not take on more than you can handle. If you have the means, you can also enlist professional help. If you need help organizing your house, there are professional organizers out there. If you want to keep a cleaner house and you have the money to do it, hire a house cleaner. If you have the money, if you have the time, if you have the resources, hire those jobs out. However you got to do it, whatever system you got to set up, make it work for you. We talk about this a lot. You don't have to be stuck to whatever the internet's telling you.
You don't have to leave it as a bedroom. You can make it a closet.
Yes. Whatever you have to do to stick to your goals in a healthy way, do it.
I love that.
And then tell us about it.
Absolutely.
Because,
Join our group and tell us about it.
yeah, because I still need help.
A lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to hear your tips sometime, whether you put them on there or whether you use another episode
Yes.
or however you decide to go about it. I don't have a good transition because what I'm about to talk about is not a funny thing, and I don't want to make a joke about at the expense of something that was sad. So
And we don't want to accuse the dog man in Michigan of
absolutely
kidnapping people.
not. He's a
So,
bro.
mhm.
He does make things work for him though.
He's really good at being flexible about that.
Now I feel like I just I made it so that you guys are gonna feel sad while I'm talking.
And now it's Jessica's turn to ruin your day.
Here we go. So this is the wrap up to my missing persons trio. I can't promise that I'm done with missing people.
It might pop up another time.
It absolutely might, but I've got some fun stuff coming up. And I would like to tell you guys today about the Springfield 3. This happened on June 7th, 1992. So we're heading to the 90s again. We went
All right.
90s, 2000s, 90s. This is about Suzanne, or Susie, as I think I call her throughout most of this, Streeter. She's a 19-year-old woman. Stacy McCall, her friend, who was an 18-year-old woman. And Susie's mom, Cheryl Levitt, who is a 47-year-old woman. These girls had just graduated. They just graduated from Kickapoo. Which we could go on for a really long time about that. But, I mean, it's spelled like kick a poo.
Really?
It's not, who would?
Right. And nobody was like all these years, nobody's been like, we should fix that.
This should change.
This is lame. Let's do better.
A bad idea. So, Cheryl was a single mom to Susie. She was a cosmetologist and was reportedly incredibly close to her daughter. They did fight on and off, and Susie had moved in and out a few times, but it was a lot of just like teenage angst, reportedly, that more than like knock down, drag out fights or drugs or anything like that. But it said that Susie would occasionally cancel plans so she could hang out with her mom. So they had just graduated, and Susie spent some time after graduation with her mom. And then she decided to head to a party with her friend Janelle. Janelle was sort of a glue between her and Stacy, who had started to grow apart. They had been really good friends. It's said that Susie would kind of defer and go with the like rougher kids, and that Stacy would defer and go with the more popular kids.
Okay.
A side note that isn't relevant to the story in this part at this point yet, but could be later, is that all three of these women were very petite women. They were all under 5'4", and the heaviest was around 120 pounds.
Okay.
So they were very petite.
Very
ladies.
petite.
So, Susie spent the time with her mom on graduation day and then decided to go to a party with her friend Janelle, where Stacy was also going to be. The three of them were going to kind of hang out and rekindle that friendship, I guess. It was an attempt. So they headed to the party, spent some time there, and then they started party hopping. Party hopping in the house. It's party rocking, but
Nope.
I thought it worked. So.
It is
Party hopping now. So they went from party to party. The three of them decided, at some point during these parties, decided that the next day they were going to go to a water park together, which sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved it when we had a water park in Muskegon.
We still do.
Well, at Michigan's Adventure, yes.
Yes.
It's way more expensive. I was thinking of Pleasure Island.
Mm-hmm. Treasure Island, Pleasure Island. I don't it was one of the two. Pleasure Island sounds dirty, but it might have actually been called Pleasure Island.
I think that's the island that the boys go to in Pinocchio, and I think that's what it was named after, wasn't it?
Oh, that would make sense.
I don't know. So they were going to go to a water park. They ended up at a party around 1 a.m. that just ended up getting too loud, and the police came and broke it up. At that point, they decided they were going to call it a night. So the three of them headed to Janelle's house. No, okay, going way back. The three of them decided they were going to go to a water park. When they made that decision, Stacy called her mom and asked if that was okay. And then said she was going to stay the night at Janelle's house with Susie and Janelle, and they were going to go just in the morning. So her mom said, no problem, call me in the morning, have a great night. You know, your teenage daughter on a graduation night, you know what she's doing.
Right.
So after the party gets broken up by the police, they head back to Janelle's house, but what they didn't realize is that Janelle had a bunch of family in town. So Janelle herself was sleeping on the couch, and so Stacy and Susie were going to have to sleep on the floor in the living room. And they decided they did not want to do that. Susie had just received a new waterbed.
Oh, in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. From her mom as a gift for graduation. And she had said, Stacy, why don't you sleep in the waterbed, I'll sleep in my old bed, and then we'll come back to Janelle's house in the morning. So that's what they decided to do. That is the last time anyone saw these girls. The next morning, Janelle woke up and she tried to call the girls at 9 o'clock because they never arrived. She starts to get concerned, and around 12 o'clock, she decides she and her boyfriend are going to go over to Susie's house. Cheryl's house, Susie's house. So they
wake
get
those
there.
girls up. Too late to be
Exactly.
sleeping.
How annoying. How rude. So they get there, and all three cars are there. So at this point, Janelle assumes that they had overslept out all night. I'm making a guess, but I assume they were drinking, and easy to oversleep. For some reason, Janelle was barefoot, which sounds exactly like what I would do. And
So it's us.
exactly. So she gets out of the car and she heads up to the door with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend says, "Oh no, there's glass, be careful." So the light outside that was just like an outdoor front porch light had been shattered. So the boyfriend sweeps up the glass.
It's probably somebody throwing dishes at them for
Absolutely. Case solved. Then they went somewhere where they could pour water on each other.
Yeah. It was
Happy New Year.
It was all for luck.
Oh my gosh.
We're so good at this.
We're amazing, honestly. We should be making so much more money then.
Right?
So he sweeps up the glass, and Janelle opens the door, which was left unlocked. She immediately notices their dog Cinnamon, which was like a small Yorkie type dog, is terrified, and she is barking her head off, and she runs to Janelle, who she knows, and jumps in her arms, and when Janelle holds her, she's just shaking, which is really sad.
Aww.
Side note, I have no idea what happens to Cinnamon after all of this.
Pause, look it up.
This is literally the most important. DoesTheDogDie.com.
Right.
Janelle kind of starts heading through the house. She notices the waterbed where Stacy was going to sleep. Stacy's shorts were folded up on the bed, and Stacy's sandals were there, just all neatly placed. She found Susie's bedroom in the exact same way, and in the bathroom there were towels that looked like the girls had made it home and washed their faces to get ready for bed. Susie's bed looked like it was like pulled back for someone to sleep in, but that no one had actually climbed into the bed. So then she went into Cheryl's room and found the same thing, except Cheryl's bed had been slept in and was in disarray and never remade or anything. Susie and Cheryl were both heavy smokers, and Janelle noted that the cigarettes were still there. So were the lighters, which is very unusual. If you are a smoker, you don't go without those.
Especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because it was very acceptable to smoke everywhere.
Yes. Stacy wasn't a smoker, but had migraine meds that she brought everywhere with her because they would get severe and come on immediately, and that was also left. So the phone rang while she was there, and she answered. They must have been very comfortable with each other.
And she was like, fuck it, why not?
Exactly. Whatever. When she answered, there was a man on the other end of the line, and he started saying sexually lewd things to her. So she hung up, rang again, she picked it up, same thing happened, she hung up. She noticed the car keys were still in the house, and their purses were lined up on the floor, I guess, where they would have normally kept them. So at this point, Janice, Stacy's mom, is starting to get really concerned because Stacy was supposed to call her that day before they went to the water park, and she called Janelle's mom, or Janelle's house, and got Janelle's sister, who said they never showed up. Janelle is over at her house right now looking for them. So at this point, Stacy's mom, Janice, I was correct, it is Janice, headed over to Susie's house. She gets there, and at this point, for some reason, I guess the 90s, there were like 18 people at the house that had just like started showing up and being there and helping look for them and stuff. And in the meantime, people were like cleaning up and tidying up the house and stuff like that. So, which is so weird to me. Like, I don't know if I've ever had 18 people in my house.
Much less having them clean things.
Right? I know. I wish.
Quit it.
Maybe I would invite more people over if they'd clean while I had them here. Anyway. So Janice looks around, sees exactly what Janelle had already seen, takes note, listens to the messages on the answering machine, thinking maybe someone had called or maybe Susie had left a message or something like that. And whatever she heard on the answering machine was thought to be really important to the case, but either she or the police at some point accidentally deleted it. It's not clear if she's the only one that heard it and she accidentally deleted it, or if she heard it, told the police heard it, and then they accidentally deleted it.
Press the wrong button.
Seriously. And I feel like you should have been able to get it back on an old 90s answering machine, but I guess I'm just too tech forward now.
Gosh. I'm trying to think if that would have been like still on like cassette tape.
Yeah.
Like the mini cassettes, and they like
Or if they could
recorded
actually
over
voice
it.
record on there.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
I don't know.
if it was saved on like a digital.
And it would completely depend on the people, because at the time I think both were available, but
Yeah.
one was probably way more expensive. So anyway, at this point, thankfully the police kick everybody out. But it's a little too little too late, because the house has been tidied and touched. There were fingerprints everywhere. Yep. So in Susie's room, the only thing the police noticed, as well as what everyone else had seen, was that in the blinds, it looked as though she had pulled them down to peek out. I think kind of you can picture that, how when you do that, sometimes the blinds get left sort of funky. So it looked like Susie had looked out through the blinds. They finally announced missing persons case. These 3 women, keep an eye open
knows
for
where
them.
they are.
Yep. They asked for tips. They made this really, really public at the police's request, because they wanted tips. They wanted anyone who'd seen them. A few days after they went missing, the first good lead came in. A woman had been sitting on her porch watching the sunrise in a neighborhood of a little ways away from there. A green van pulled up into the neighbor's driveway, and she saw a girl that fit Susie's description driving the van, and then heard a man who she could not see at the time say, "Don't do anything stupid." She was very afraid, and that is why it took her so long to get to the police, because she was scared. But that same green van was reportedly seen several more times with a girl that fit Susie's description driving. A man did see this at the grocery store, and he wrote down the plate, thinking that everything about it felt really weird and kind of wrong, and then threw away the paper that he wrote the plate number on.
Nah, that wasn't that weird. I
guess it was a newspaper. Maybe he had a habit of taking it and tossing it, but come on. So they tried to hypnotize this guy and get the numbers from him. They got the first 3, but it turned up nothing on the National Registry.
Also, they hypnotized him.
Yeah. Like, at that point, why didn't you just go dig through the trash at the grocery store or wherever? Because...
Would have worked in Law & Order SVU.
Right? So, a couple of suspects, Susie's exes, Dustin... It's not funny, but was an ex-grave robber. He and friends had stolen fillings, $30 worth of fillings, from corpses a few months before they had disappeared. And
that's a lot of work for $30.
Right? And gross work.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you.
That's not even just like, I dug up a fresh grave and took the rings off their fingers.
Right.
Like, I pulled their teeth out.
Ugh. And yeah. And how many do you have to... You
Yeah.
can't guarantee
How many fillings do you need to get $30?
Exactly. Okay, so anyway.
We know he is
stupid.
Yeah. And gross.
He also... Well, it's thought that Susie was going to testify against him. So he was nearby that night to where she lived. But he passed a lie detector test, so the police said, "Good on you. Have fun. Bye.
See you later."
And then there was Mike, who Susie had broken up with after 2 years together. He had a restraining order against him from Susie because he would beat her up. She had moved in with him for a little while. They broke up about 8 months before she disappeared. She got the restraining order a few weeks after they broke up. And she claimed that he would threaten her, slash her tires, call her, stalk her. He claims, of course, that he never did any of that. His grandmother claims that they were young and he didn't know any better when he would hit her. Which, that part of the story just irritated me. I had to throw it in there. He was just young. He didn't know any better.
No one ever taught him not to hit women.
Boys will be boys. Should we stop this and start a whole new podcast about that saying?
Yes.
So her coworkers claim that they had to have her walk to her car during the end of her shifts because of him. But he also passed a lie detector test.
And that's all it takes.
Yeah. I mean, so he's obviously innocent.
Yeah. Control your blood pressure and your pulse, and you too can get away with murder.
So this last one is Susie's brother, also Cheryl's son. He was estranged from the two. Susie had moved out a couple times, as I had mentioned before. One of them had been with Dearest Mikey, and the other one had been with her brother Bart. They fought for some reason, and she went back to live with her mom. Bart claims he was passed out drunk that night, and he did pass a lie detector test. The weird thing about Bart, taking us off of the timeline, is that he left his job in the same area a few months later and moved away. But wherever he moved to, in 2005, he ended up getting in trouble for trying to abduct a 15-year-old girl. So Barty does not have a very good, clean record there.
Right. Although apparently he was much better at abducting people before.
Exactly. Right? Then, after this becomes national news, a couple in Florida call in with some information, another suspect that they wanted to bring into light. So this couple had a daughter who was kidnapped and killed in a very violent, destructive way when she was on her way home from Disney World in the 70s. And the man who was convicted of that was named Robert Cox. And Robert got a death penalty ruling for that crime, but he appealed it and appealed it and appealed it until it got to the Supreme Court, where it was let go. And Robert got free. And so these amazing Florida parents told the courts and the police that they were going to track Robert everywhere he went for the rest of his life. And he moved to Springfield.
Oh.
So when they saw this on the news and they knew where Robert was, they called the police and said, you need to look into this guy. He has a history of this. The night that this happened, he claims he was with his girlfriend at church. And the girlfriend corroborates the story. But later on, his girlfriend admitted that she had lied for him. That
totally
he had called.
Robert.
Yeah. He had called and said, you need to tell the police you were with me. So
never mind asking where I've been.
Exactly.
It did not involve 3 strange women.
Yeah, 3 tiny petite women who had nothing. Anyway. Ugh. So he later on in life was arrested because he robbed a child at gunpoint. And I put asshole in parentheses. And he...
Did he get much?
Probably $30 that the child had stolen out of mouths of dead people.
Right? Oh my gosh, Robert.
So this is the point when the girlfriend admits that she had lied. They go to interview him. This is many years later, obviously. And this is the part where he claims he knows exactly where they were buried, exactly what happened that night, and that no one will ever find them.
Jerk.
Right. So there's a handful of people who believe that he is the murderer. He's horrible. Yes. But there's a handful of people who think he's just a psycho.
Which is a thing psychos do.
Yeah. Yeah, more attention, right?
Yeah, especially because you would think if he knew and wanted the attention,
he could tell them where they were, or at least the story of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these people try to use that as bargaining chip. I'll tell you where the body is if you give me a lighter sentence,
right,
or whatever. Which is still gross, and this guy hopefully will never get out of jail. Ugh. So anyway, all along in this entire investigation, the detectives felt like the police chief of the time in wherever, Kickapoo, in Springfield. They felt like he was over micromanaging the case, and he was too involved and he was too on top of everyone else. He would meddle and he would rule out suspects without any conversation with anybody else. He wouldn't follow up on tips occasionally. He micromanaged. He leaked too much to the press to the point where prosecutors had to threaten him to make him stop. He blamed the corrupted crime scene for all of the issues in the case.
I bet he's Robert's brother.
Right?
That's why Robert moved there.
weirdly, there was a letter found in, do you remember in old newspaper boxes, you could put in like $1.25 or whatever and take out the newspaper?
Yeah.
And you open that little front door on the box.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a letter that was found in one of those that said, it had an apartment complex drawn on it with a note that said, use the ruse of a gas leak. And they thought that that might be something that someone had already done. Maybe they had set these girls up for this. It's all so weird.
Very weird.
And then a tip came in about a transient man that had been around their house with long hair and a long beard, and it led nowhere else. A waitress at Cheryl's favorite restaurant said between 1 and 3 a.m. that morning, the morning that they had disappeared, they came in and she noticed that Susie was maybe drunk and that Cheryl was sort of trying to get her to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And they eat and leave. The weird thing is, if this is the case, then did they go back home? And that's when they washed off their makeup and left all their items and things there. Is she mistaken? And it was another set of, I mean, what was the last one where the man in Panama said, all Europeans look the same?
Right,
All white folk look the same?
Oh. Did somebody
to
follow
say.
him home from the restaurant?
Right. I mean, it would almost make sense if they arrived home and were making a lot of noise that Cheryl would get up and say, we need to get you sobered up and bring them out for some greasy soul food type stuff.
Yep.
There was a big cake at the house that had been a gift or a cake for the graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And people said, well, why wouldn't they eat that? Well, it's not always cake time.
Yeah, maybe they needed some Waffle House.
So it's really strange. If they left the house
Willingly, they would have brought their stuff.
Yeah, and if...
And the weird calls.
Yes, it's all very strange.
The voicemail nobody can hear.
Someone did, when this aired on America's Most Wanted, someone did call in with a tip. And the tip seemed really credible, but while they were transferring over to the Springfield police, they lost contact and never got back with them.
And nobody wrote it down.
No. No.
Nobody was like, let me get your phone number in case we get disconnected.
Exactly. And they begged the person on air to call again, and no one ever called again. In February, after their disappearance, the police announced that it might be a serial killer, which opened up a few more suspects, but nothing ever came of them. And then 5 years after the disappearance, Susie and Cheryl's family asked for them to be declared dead, as they could then close the case. Stacy's mom said she will never do that, and was quoted saying, how angry would she be if when we found her, I had her declared dead? Which made me want to cry, because that love and hope in her heart is just... In 2001, they did have new eyes put on the case, just to see if it could figure anything out. They did receive a new tip about the green van. Someone called in and said that the van was buried on a farm, and the girls' bodies were with the van. They sent cadaver dogs and found 3 hits, and they dug up green pieces of what appears to be a vehicle and some blood. But the blood in the lab, the results were inconclusive. So the theories are, 1, that Cheryl was the target and the girls were just there at the wrong time. Cheryl was supposed to be there home alone that whole night. Number 2, that Susie was the target, as she had the most people kind of outgunning for her, and she was running kind of with a rough crowd. And that 3, it was a random crime of opportunity, and they used a ruse, like that paper in that mailbox had said. It's really weird. They did reach out to Robert Cox one more time, and he refused to speak with them. There was a psychic who called in at one point and said that they were buried beneath a parking structure that had been built 1 year later.
Oh.
They brought in the ground scanning software and did find 3 anomalies that were buried far enough and strangely enough to be bodies about their size. But to pull down the parking structure with no credible tip would have been really expensive.
Right.
And could they do it?
Oh.
So
poor Stacy's mom is just waiting for the day that this parking structure can be removed.
Exactly.
God, how
really,
awful.
really weird. And there was no fight. These girls didn't fight whoever took them. They didn't Why would they walk away from their life? The mom had just bought the home. Cheryl had just bought this home, and it's so weird. So yeah, nothing new to report about it. It's just such a strange, it leaves you with such a feeling of unease.
Yeah. Well, and like the first one you talked about a few weeks ago, Walsh, like there was enough there that you could convince me maybe she did just like
start a new
leave.
life. Yep.
Like she had some reasons, she had some opportunity, she just thought it was best for her kid and ran.
Yep.
The second one,
we
know it's foul play, probably a local gang and inside job, whatever. This one's weird.
This one's really weird.
A lot of people that could have done it.
One theme I did see throughout all of these was messy crime scenes. Susan's didn't have much of a crime scene at all.
She just disappeared into thin air.
But the other two were very
Lots
mishandled.
of fingerprints
all the way around.
Yeah.
I do have another set of very quick tips. I know that we've gone long for this one, but these are tips for staying safe in your home. We've done travel, we've done just as a person. So keep your blinds closed, especially at night when people might be able to see your activities. Light your outside up like it's the airport, and keep your inside dark when you're asleep, because you know your house, you know where you're going. Someone breaking in to harm you might not. But also, they can't get in if there is no shadow for them to sneak around in. Motion lights. Think about investing in security. I'm out a lot, and I hear the sound that my Ring camera makes, and I grab my phone, and it's not me, it's someone around me. These are very popular nowadays. They're very reasonably priced. I understand that not attainable always, but your safety is probably worth maybe putting that $150 on a credit card.
And even if you can't do the Ring cameras, Zach and I they're called Wyze cameras, WYZE.
Okay, I've heard of them.
I think they cost him like $25.
Nice.
And they hook up to his Wi-Fi, and they were good enough. The videos of the butterfly or the caterpillars hatching are from that camera.
Okay. So
cheap, reasonable.
Do what you can.
It's an app that he can still get alerts when he's not at the house. It's got all that functionality.
Perfect. And then don't publicize your vacations. We touched on that a little bit. Social media doesn't need to know until you're back for weeks. Do a photo dump. Post all your pictures then. That is like a rule I live by.
Yes,
absolutely. Auto lights and timers so that you don't have a house on a routine. I was thinking of app-controlled lights. Those are so cool now. If you're out drinking and you're like, man, I'm going to light up the house just for a little bit.
I want to come home to a well-lit, ready house.
You can click that button.
Up, turn the lights on.
But if you are on vacation, even if it's just overnight in, the neighboring town, you can click those lights on, and anybody driving by will think, oh, someone's at that house. Vary your routines. See if you can leave a little earlier one day than the other days. Try to leave a little later one day. Maybe try to work from home on a different day each week. Just vary when your car is in and out of the house. Maybe park it in the driveway at random times instead of in the garage. Keep an eye on your neighbors and build relationships with them and ask them to do the same for you.
So that when somebody is robbing your house and stealing all your stuff, your neighbors aren't like, oh, I just thought they were moving.
Yeah, exactly. I've never even seen them, so.
Yeah, I didn't know what they looked like. Oh, is that her screaming?
Oh, that's what she sounds like. Lock your doors and windows. I know some people are so comfortable walking into their home and shutting the door, and they don't even think to lock it behind them. There was a serial killer in the 70s who would kill people who he could walk into their home because he felt like he was invited into their home. No, it doesn't make sense logically, but neither does killing people.
Yeah. So. Murderers aren't logical.
And then just curb appeal is less important than your safety. Tall bushes, things that obscure your yard. I know we love privacy. We love our privacy fences. If you insist on having that, have it lit up really well. Maybe see if there is a way you can have a line of sight. Maybe you can close it off when you're utilizing it. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to do that. I know curb appeal is very important. In some neighborhoods, it's legal.
Required.
Yeah, but your safety is important. So sorry my topics were so heavy.
Gosh.
I'm bringing it
And
down.
so long.
And so long.
We have
I
to
know.
talk about sad stuff for so long.
Forever. I think I did better this time. Anyway, I don't know. This was
This was dumb.
I hated it. Forget it. We're done.
This was the Dungeons and Dopamine podcast.
You can listen to us anywhere that you stream podcasts and also on YouTube.
You can also support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Insta, and Reddit.
And you can reach out to us on any of those social medias or at our email, which is dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com. And again, we love to hear from you guys.
Yes, please.
So if you have scary missing people stories to share, if you have traveling safety tips to share, if you have ways that you make your New Year's resolution stick, or maybe you want help with figuring out how to make a New Year's resolution stick,
maybe you want to
reach
join
out.
our group.
Yeah, please reach out. We love people.
We love it. Let us hear you. Dungeons and Dopamine is edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions.
Thank you guys.
We love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.